Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom was dead silent as the judge called the next witness. All eyes turned toward the back as a familiar face stepped forward, one that no one expected to see. Usher Raymond, the Grammy-winning R&B star, was about to testify. Not about his music, not about a label dispute, but about what really happened behind the closed doors of Sean Diddy Combs' empire. For years, Usher stayed silent. He played the game, smiled through interviews, dodged questions. But now, as Diddy faces federal charges of trafficking, coercion, and a criminal enterprise of abuse, Usher has finally decided to tell the truth. And the truth, he says, has been eating him alive. From what he witnessed as a 14-year-old under Diddy's care, to what he later realized about the entertainment industry's darkest corners, this testimony isn't just shocking. It's historic, and it could change everything. Usher began by recounting the day his mother told him he was going to live with Diddy in New York. At the time, he was just 14 years old, fresh off his debut album and eager to rise in the ranks of the music industry. L.A. Reid had arranged the mentorship with the belief that being around Diddy would fast-track Usher's success. What none of them expected was the kind of world Usher would be walking into. "I thought I was going to learn how to be a star," Usher told the court, his voice steady but tight. "What I saw instead were things no teenager should be around." Usher testified that from the moment he entered Diddy's Midtown Manhattan penthouse, the environment was saturated in excess. Champagne on breakfast trays, strangers waking up in rooms he didn't know existed, people he later recognized from TV and magazines, lounging half-dressed or passed out. It wasn't a home, it was a scene. He called it the flavor camp, Usher said. "I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was just branding. Later, I realized it meant indulgence." The court listened intently as Usher described how the mentorship quickly turned into something else. Diddy wasn't teaching him about vocals or performance. Instead, Usher claimed he was encouraged to observe the lifestyle, to party with celebrities, and to stop asking questions. "He told me, 'This is how we do it. You don't ask, you just watch. Learn by watching. That's how grown men roll.'" He recalled one night when he woke up around 3 a.m. to find people in masks entering the apartment. Music was playing low, and candles lit the hallway. He walked into the living room and saw what he could only describe as a ritualistic party. It wasn't just sex. There was structure to it. Cameras, lists, and no one looked surprised. "I thought maybe I had walked into a movie set. I remember thinking, I shouldn't be seeing this." Usher said he was told to go back to bed, but he didn't sleep that night. That was the moment, he said, that changed how he saw Diddy forever. The next part of Usher's testimony centered around the warnings he never received. Not from his record label, not from his mother, not from industry insiders who all knew what Diddy's world really looked like. People thought Diddy was eccentric, Usher explained. They didn't realize he had power over people in a way that was quiet, but absolute. If he didn't like you, your career stalled. If he liked you, your silence was part of the deal. Usher told the jury that there were others like him, young artists brought into the fold, promised a fast track to fame, but slowly pulled into Diddy's orbit in ways they couldn't understand at the time. He named no names yet, but hinted that more would come forward. "There were people around us who saw. Assistants, drivers, other musicians. Everybody acted like it was normal. But deep down, they knew. The adults failed us." One particularly disturbing moment in his testimony came when he described a private trip to the Caribbean Diddy took him on when he was 15. It was supposed to be a retreat. Just me, him, and a couple others. The place was isolated. No press, no cameras. And that's where I realized I wasn't there to learn anything about music. He paused. "I won't go into everything, but what I will say is that I wasn't given a choice about the environment I was placed in. And it took me years to understand the manipulation." The courtroom was silent. Usher said that after the trip, his relationship with Diddy changed. The mogul became more controlling. There were always new people around, always more parties, always more rules. And every time Usher pushed back, even slightly, he was reminded who made his career. He told me, "You don't bite the hand that feeds you. Remember who gave you this life." Usher ended the segment by looking directly at Diddy. "You didn't give me this life. You gave me nightmares." Usher's third portion of testimony was perhaps the most stunning. He described being presented with a contract at the age of 16 that included a confidentiality clause. Though it was under the guise of a standard non-disclosure agreement to protect Bad Boy Records' internal dealings, Usher claimed it included specific language about private events and discretion. "At the time, I didn't even know what half the words meant," Usher told the court. "My mother had to co-sign, and the label's lawyers said it was standard. But now, looking back, I know what it was. A contract to keep me quiet." He said he signed it because he trusted them. "That signature bought my silence for years. I wasn't allowed to speak about parties, guests, behaviors. I was told it would ruin the brand. But what about what it did to me?" Usher said that clause was invoked years later, when he attempted to speak out about some of the things he had seen. "In 2009, I was working on an interview with a major publication. The questions started getting personal. Suddenly, I got a call from Bad Boy's old legal team. They reminded me of my NDA. They said, 'We hope you're not trying to jeopardize your reputation.'" He said he never went through with the interview. But it wasn't just lawyers. Usher claimed he received veiled threats from people still tied to Diddy's empire, people he hadn't spoken to in years. "You think you're done with that world, but it's never done with you. And if you step out of line, there are consequences, not just to your career, but to your safety." The courtroom sat frozen as Usher pulled out a copy of the NDA. The judge allowed it as evidence. It included language about audio-visual documentation and unauthorized reproduction, phrases that now took on a sinister tone in the light of Diddy's alleged freak-off video library. Usher's voice cracked slightly. "That document made me feel like I was crazy for years, like everything I saw, everything I felt, wasn't real, because I wasn't allowed to say it out loud." Usher's voice wavered as he described a lesser-known moment from 1996, when he was just 17 years old, and Diddy took him to an exclusive mansion party in Atlanta. It was a pivotal moment that would reshape how he viewed the man he once saw as a mentor. According to Usher, Diddy was in full party host mode, with a house filled with celebrities, models, and mysterious men who didn't seem connected to the music industry at all. Usher said he wasn't expecting what he saw next. The house was lavish. Marble floors, security at every door, a DJ spinning until sunrise. But what stood out wasn't the luxury. It was the secret room. Usher told the courtroom he remembered Diddy whispering to one of the security guards who opened a locked door at the back of the mansion. "You're not ready for that yet," Diddy said to him with a grin. Usher said he peeked in anyway. "There were people in masks. That's all I'll say. I didn't know what I was looking at." Then he said something that made everyone in the courtroom shift. "I think that night changed me," Usher confessed. "I saw things I still can't explain. I don't know if it was legal, but I know it wasn't right." He then held up photocopied pages from a journal. Usher explained he had started writing the journal in 1998, originally to document song lyrics and thoughts. But as the years passed, it became a vault of personal memories and observations from his time around Diddy. In one entry dated March 1999, Usher wrote, "Had dinner with Diddy and 3 execs I didn't know. They kept talking about loyalty. Said loyalty keeps you on tour. Honesty puts you back home." Diddy laughed. Another passage dated October 2000 described a Thursday night where Usher was allegedly invited but declined. "Too many secrets, too many masks. Diddy says it's just the culture. I don't agree." "Did you ever tell anyone about these entries?" the prosecutor asked. Usher shook his head. "I was afraid of losing everything. I didn't think anyone would believe me." When asked why he was sharing it now, Usher replied, "Because I've lived with it long enough, and it's time the truth comes out." Usher leaned into the microphone and revealed an encounter he said he hadn't even told his closest friends. In 1997, at age 18, he was invited by Diddy to meet a powerful music investor in Miami. someone who could fund Usher's first world tour and help him build his brand. I thought it was about business, Usher explained. Diddy hyped it up like it was the biggest break of my life. He told me to dress up, look sharp, and be polite. When Usher arrived at the penthouse suite at the Setai Hotel, he found 3 men lounging in robes with high-end champagne and several young women sitting quietly in the background. One of them, he said he was from overseas, asked me if I wanted to be remembered forever, Usher said. He wasn't talking about music. Usher said Diddy left him alone with the men. I felt trapped, he testified. They didn't touch me. But one of them put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You can stay, or you can leave. But you'll never get another invitation like this again." He left, and that's when things started to change. Usher said he was removed from one tour opportunity, and a prominent producer suddenly pulled out of working with him. "No one ever said it was because I left that suite," Usher explained. But after that night, doors that had always been open suddenly shut. Usher also testified that Diddy showed him a disturbing clip from a handheld camera a few weeks later. He laughed as he played it back. It was of another young artist. He was doing something I know he wouldn't have agreed to unless someone made him. "Did Diddy threaten you?" the attorney asked. Usher paused. He didn't have to. The people around him did. They didn't use words. They used silence and exile. Usher said this was the moment he realized fame was no longer about talent. It was about submission. That's how you stayed famous in Diddy's world. Usher's tone turned personal as the courtroom lights dimmed slightly, with cameras now focused solely on his face. "This is the hardest part," he said, "because it's not about me anymore." He went on to describe the early days of Justin Bieber's rise. Usher had been instrumental in launching the pop star's career, co-signing him and serving as his mentor. At the beginning, it was all positive. "I wanted to be the big brother I never had," Usher said. But then Diddy entered the picture. According to Usher, Diddy began inviting Bieber to parties, calling it Flavor Camp, the same phrase he used with Usher years earlier. He was 15, Usher said, and they were treating him like a grown man. One night in 2011, Usher got a call from Bieber. He didn't say anything at first. "I just heard breathing." Then he said, "I want to come home." Usher's team attempted to track him down, but Bieber went silent for 2 days. When they met again, Bieber wouldn't look Usher in the eye. He just said, "It's fine. I'm good now." But he wasn't, Usher testified. He then revealed that he'd confronted Diddy privately and asked him directly, "What are you doing to these kids?" According to Usher, Diddy chuckled and replied, "Same thing they did to me. It's how the game works." Usher said that was the last serious conversation he had with Diddy. "After that, I stepped back. I didn't want my name tied to it. But watching what happened to Justin, I couldn't stay silent anymore." He also revealed, for the first time, that in 2018 he received a call from an anonymous number with a voice that said, "Tell him to keep his mouth shut, or we'll shut it for him." When asked who he believed was behind the call, Usher looked directly at the defense table. "I think you know." Usher revealed that the breaking point in his relationship with Diddy came during a now infamous night that had never been publicly discussed. Until now. According to his testimony, it was an unassuming private party at a hidden estate in the Hollywood Hills in 2002. Usher claimed that what he saw that night changed the way he saw Diddy forever. The event, which he described as more like a rite of passage than a party, involved several young artists and models, many of whom were under the impression that they were being offered career opportunities. Usher testified that Diddy had invited him under the guise of meeting a new producer from Europe. But when he arrived, he said there were no executives, no producers, just dim lighting, security at every corner, and a heavy aura of secrecy. He described an environment where phones were confiscated at the door, and a strange series of contracts were presented to guests that were labeled NDAs, but had more aggressive language than anything he'd ever seen in the industry. "The vibe was wrong," Usher said in court, his voice reportedly breaking for the first time. "There were people there who weren't artists. They weren't executives. I realized they were just observers." He said he recognized several famous faces, some of whom had never been connected publicly to Diddy, but refused to name them on record, hinting instead that if this trial continues, others will come forward. The most harrowing part of his statement came when he said that after trying to leave the party early, he was stopped by a man he did not recognize and brought to a side room where Diddy was seated. He told me, "You're not ready yet. You still think this is about music. This is bigger than that." Usher left that night and claimed he never returned to another party hosted by Diddy again. Usher's testimony pivoted toward the business practices Diddy had employed, not just with him, but with dozens of bad boy artists. For the first time, Usher submitted internal emails and contract drafts revealing that he had signed a development deal as a teen that locked him into 5 albums and gave away the rights to his masters until the age of 35. "I didn't know what I was signing," Usher admitted. "I just wanted to sing." He then exposed how other artists were tied into similar contracts, mentioning names like Carl Thomas, Total, Black Rob, and the late Craig Mack. Usher alleged that Diddy had a pattern of pulling artists close with promises of mentorship and exposure, only to discard them once they were no longer useful or obedient. He even revealed that a private accountant once sent him a spreadsheet with the royalties he had missed over the years, totaling more than $4.3 million. When he brought this to Diddy's attention, he claims Diddy laughed and told him, "If you knew what was really owed to you, you wouldn't sleep at night." Court documents also revealed that several artists had taken settlements in silence, some accepting small payments just to regain the right to use their names or perform their songs. One of the biggest revelations was that Usher had tried to organize a secret meeting with other artists in 2011 to address their collective grievances, but said the meeting never happened because someone tipped Diddy off. Even more damning was his claim that he once saw Diddy order the destruction of demo tapes and footage belonging to an artist who had threatened to speak out. That artist, Usher said, has since vanished from public life. "I don't know where he is, nobody does, but I remember his voice, and I remember that he was scared." This statement silenced the courtroom. In the final part of his testimony, Usher broke down when asked why he never came forward earlier. His response was both haunting and heartbreaking. "Because I thought I owed him. I thought if I stayed silent, I could move on and still be grateful. But you can't be grateful for a lie." Usher said the guilt had eaten at him for years. He talked about watching other young artists fall into the same trap he once did, and admitted that for a long time, he didn't know how to help them without destroying his own career. It was always about leverage, he said, and Diddy had all of it. He revealed that in 2016, around the time the infamous Drink Champs clip started circulating again online, he had attempted to confront Diddy privately, but was blocked by Diddy's legal team. What struck the courtroom most was when Usher described an unpublished journal entry he had written the night he left Diddy's mentorship for good. It said, "I survived Puffy, but did the kid in me survive? I still don't know." He ended his testimony by addressing the court, the victims watching online, and the younger generation of artists who idolized the people on trial. "This isn't just about one man. It's about an entire system that told kids like me to be quiet, to stay in line, and to never question the hands that fed us. But I'm here now, and I'm not afraid anymore. Not for me, because I've already lived through it. I'm doing this for the ones who didn't." At that moment, the courtroom stood silent. What began as a federal case about racketeering and trafficking had turned into something much bigger, a reckoning for decades of silence in the music industry. What the public never knew, until now, is that at the height of his early fame, just after releasing 8701 in 2001, Usher quietly disappeared from the spotlight for a full week. Industry insiders assumed he was taking a break from the grueling tour schedule. But in court, Usher revealed that he was checked into a private mental health facility in Northern California under a false name. According to his testimony, the cause of the breakdown stemmed from unresolved trauma that dated back to his time living with Diddy as a teen. Usher admitted that he had started experiencing panic attacks shortly after turning 20, often triggered by seemingly innocuous things: flashing lights, tight crowds, certain types of music. At first he didn't understand the connection, but it all came rushing back one night while staying in a hotel in New York, a building that coincidentally used to be the location of one of Diddy's infamous parties. "I walked into the hallway, and I smelled the same brand of candles he used to burn. Usher told the court. My whole body froze. I started shaking. I couldn't breathe. That night, his team rushed him to the clinic, where he stayed under observation for 5 days. What he shared with the in-house psychiatrist, he told the jury, is something he had never revealed publicly before. I told him I saw things no kid should see. I lived in a world where power meant silence, and survival meant smiling through it. That house wasn't just a crash pad. It was a place where dreams were sold. But your soul was the price. Usher testified that the psychiatrist diagnosed him with PTSD, a revelation that stunned both the courtroom and his fans watching from outside. He said it took nearly 2 years of therapy before he could sleep through the night without recurring nightmares. Though Usher never named others who may have gone through the same thing, he hinted that several other young artists who had similar relationships with Diddy had also disappeared or suffered emotional breakdowns, but were too afraid to speak. I was lucky. I had the money to get help, but some of the others didn't. One of them overdosed, another tried to take his life, and a third, he just vanished. When asked why he kept this a secret for over 2 decades, Usher didn't flinch. Because nobody would have believed me in 2001. Puffy was untouchable, and I was just the kid with the voice. But now the world is ready to listen. The court went still, not just from the confession, but from the implications it carried. That behind every platinum record, every Grammy speech, and every sold-out show, there may have been a silent war happening inside the mind of a young artist just trying to survive. And now, finally, he was speaking up. Not just for himself, but for every voice that had been drowned out by the music.